All right. Hello, wonderful people. Welcome to Amongst Friends, where I introduce you to myself, Shareen Webb, and one of my friends each episode. And this week, I'm going to introduce you to my friend, Lori Hamilton. And we're just going to be real with each other. We're going to talk about whatever's on our minds today. And, you know, because really, when you're amongst friends, you can talk about anything. So my friend Lori is in this lifetime a fairly recent friend. I met her in August at an amazing women's retreat. But Lori is one of those people that when I met, my soul knew I had known them forever. So even though in this lifetime, I feel like, you know, trying to explain our relationship would be really, people would be like, what? To my heart and to my soul, I've known Lori forever. So Lori also, you can't see this because this is a audio podcast, but she is, every time I look at her, I think she is a woodland fairy who has decided to have a human body for a while. So anyway, this is my friend Lori. Lori, how are you today?
I'm really good.
Yeah.
Really good.
So, yeah, what's going on in your life?
Well, I am building a tiny house, not from scratch, but it was an Oregon Department of Transportation work trailer, and we took out the industrial equipment and we're making it homey. And I'm substitute teaching, although right now with the coronavirus, that has come to a halt. And so I have spring break next week, and this week no work to go to. So I have been getting to work on a little of this and a little of that on all these projects that are sort of in between. Not. I mean, like started. A lot of them are started.
More than just ideas.
Not quite, but I am living in it. I have hot water. I can take a bath. I'm working on my closet with my rods before I put the rods in, and
yes, and I feel so blessed. I was actually able to work on a little bit of it with you. I can definitely tell right now it is far more along than when we were sitting in it and you were really dreaming and planning, and it's just really exciting to see all the changes. So
thank you for witnessing that.
Yeah. So Lori asked me right before we started recording what I was doing lately. And 2020 has been an interesting year so far, even though we are, well, I guess we're officially almost a fourth of the way through it, which blows my mind. But I am still doing appointments with people for spiritual counseling, energy healing, those kinds of things. I still do that. I am currently working a lot in collaboration with a friend of mine, Jenna, who owns Aspen Oracle. So kind of playing in that space and helping develop. She really wants to create a community for people with a real desire to play on this planet, to love the earth, but also have a real high awareness of their own spirituality and even psychic abilities. And it's really a come as you are, play with like-minded people, grow yourself spiritually kind of community. So it's been really fun to to play in that. And I created a vision board, which again, this is a podcast, so those of you listening can't see, but Lori will get to see. This kind of, I don't know if I could do it. Tilting, there we go.
Ready?
Just little things of, and I did it not so much as these are my goals for the year and here's my vision, but kind of universe tell me what's what's ahead for the year. And one of the big things on it, I cut through things and picked out words, and then I just let it all come together without really thinking about it. And there was speak up, talk every day, be inspired, talk amongst friends. Amongst friends actually ended up in text there 3 times on my board, and so starting a podcast. And a big half of the board is dedicated to South America and the tropics. So I'm just kind of excited to see how that, whatever that may be. Yeah, so really just allowing myself room to create and play and collaborate. I have a couple of writing projects in the works that I hope to self-publish, and I'm not going to talk about that, but that's just kind of.
More.
And
Tell me more.
I have 4 boys and a dog and a house that also is in process of renovation. So Lori and I have that in common. And yeah.
So tell me about your writing projects.
Well, one of them is a book for people that like to use the pendulum as a oracle tool, or it's more of a self-reflection of your own inner truth when you have a hard time getting past your analyzer. Okay. And it works. It's centered around working with spirit guides.
Nice.
So I woke up one day and just kind of drew out this very complicated circle, and then I had to translate those 64 spirit guides into a graphic that I can print in the book. But it'll just kind of talk about different categories of spirit guides, different ones, different questions you can maybe ask, and then it's just kind of a book of charts for people to use with their pendulum. So
wow.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. I'm about 70% done with that. So
oh my goodness.
I know. Then you got to go down the road of, well, how do I publish? I don't know how to self-publish.
No,
so
you don't have to know how.
I don't have to know how. I'm just going to do.
That's your business. That's the universe's business, and the universe is bringing it to you now. And the glory of this coronavirus is for those of us who choose to take care of ourselves and nourish ourselves and like do all the things that we always say we never have time to do. Like I went for a walk and did yoga yesterday. Then when we get ourselves to the vibration that's high enough, then what's coming to us can connect with us.
Exactly. That is so much what I'm finding true, and what a lot of people are finding true is, we talk so much about, oh, if I only had time for this, or oh, I do that, and and the universe is like, hey, we've been telling you to slow down and pay attention to yourself, connect with yourself.
Yeah.
You said you didn't have time. Well, here it is.
Yep.
Worldwide, y'all get time. Enforced time. So
I think it's amazing what could happen if more and more of us get that message instead of the fear message.
Exactly. And I think it's perfect timing. And I know I do see some people who are wallowing in the fear, and my heart goes out to them. But hopefully, as the virus ebbs and flows through each country, it really does just bring a connection to ourselves and to what's important in our lives. And one big shift I think we will see is people not grounding so much into what's exterior to their life. Right now we live pretty much, at least in the United States, 90% around the influence of the external. What do these people expect? When do I have to be here to, and just making a shift to more of a natural rhythm, grounding into what's important for you within yourself. And I think with the advent of people being told to work from home, we'll see a lot more flexibility in that time schedule. Everybody won't have to be at work at the same time, or there will just be a lot of different things. And of course, there's a lot of stressors going on for hospitals and staffing that way. And again, I just think that there'll be a lot of opportunity for them to say, hey, we could do this better.
Yeah, so. Totally. And it's like, a lot of us have been ready for change, but haven't actually made the change. We talk about it, but this is making it happen. And so, like when you said your heart goes out to those that are in fear, I picture things in my mind exactly the way somebody says it. So I imagined your heart going out to them. And so I thought, oh gosh, okay. No, I want to keep my heart right here.
Right here. Okay. Yeah. Good point.
I want to send them love and when I think of them, I want to see them in a thriving way where they are perfectly healthy, and they, and even like design what the future could look like if more of us took advantage of the nourishing opportunities. Then we could have a completely different society. And what would that look like? And so, like you were talking about the hospitals, it's like, well, I wonder if there would be like a new department that is just about boosting your immunity and preventing disease, and instead of just handling it when it shows up in symptoms,
Wouldn't
stuff
that
like
be cool? A preventative immune boosting center.
that. Yeah.
How fantastic. Ooh, I got chills. I love that. So what else have you envisioned?
That was just right then, right there. I haven't. Let's see. I have been doing a lot with the idea of ancestors and DNA, and I believe in the scientific epigenetics connecting with the spiritual elements. And so I know that whether the genetic tendency is turned on or off, that our exercise, our meditation, our walking, and time with animals and nature can affect those genes and heal. And I've also been trying to like come up with what is going on with me. Like, is this mine? Is it somebody else's around me? Is it an ancestor? And so I immediately like say, okay, I'm not gonna do that anymore. Like I shouldn't say it that way. Um, I'm clearing it is really what I'm doing. And I have a little thing that I go through to clear it, like a little process, I guess. And I've done it so many times that it's now a set of gestures that symbolize what I'm doing, but I'm basically sending that energy back through violet fire, God's love, to go back to whoever it originated from, and bless them and give them back their energy. And like this morning, I was thinking about, like you were saying, the external world, how many of us nowadays, but also ancestors, have worried so much about what other people think that they've given away their power over and over and over again. And I thought, and so my vision would be imagining all of these ancestors um, getting back that power and energy as love. And what would that do to their body? What would that do to the way they walk? What would that do to their relationships? And then I imagine them in a thriving space, and looking good and feeling good about who they are and what they've come to do, instead of what somebody else says that they are or should do. And then I imagine, especially the mothers, imagine them having whatever child in their womb, giving that child that energy instead of the stress energy, because every generation has had their own stressors. And I was thinking about the plague, and
Mm-hmm.
somebody posted something about how Shakespeare wrote one of his famous plays during the plague. And so I was thinking there could be some things that bloom out of this. And so for me, I don't feel like it's just us right here, right now, that are doing this. I feel like all of our ancestors are watching and cheering us on, and really excited when we figure out something else we could let go of, or release, or clear, or be done with. And I know a lot of people who've got abuse in their story feel really good when they can say, it stopped here. And I think there are lots of other things that we can stop right here, right now, that might not be the physical pieces. They could be. I've heard that our body shapes are not just like our ancestors because of genes. Like my mom would tell me that I'm built like great grandma so and so, But I think that the reason is because we have some of the same emotional tendencies, and that the emotional tendencies show up in the physical ways in the same way. And so I'm like, well, how much of that emotional tendency is mine, and how much of it is what I got from this body that had this DNA? And what's beautiful that I can like have permission. Oh, that was one of the ones I did yesterday, was beauty. What if it was okay to be beautiful? And what if all of my ancestors knew their inner beauty and shined it without worrying about it?
Uh, that's beautiful permission. Yeah. I, I'm just in awe of everything you just said. I'm still processing it all. Um, yeah, that's beautiful work. I love the returning the energy back to who it came from through the fire of God and in love and returning to wholeness, and then envisioning your ancestors, thriving, and what changes that would bring. There's a lot of common belief that when we heal ourselves, we heal 7 generations before us and 7 generations after us of those things. And just as you're talking again, I'm just getting goosebumps everywhere. It's like, oh, so good. The stuff is so good that you're talking about. And yes, thank you for reminding me. Keep my heart with me. I can send love. I don't have to send me. In fact, many people probably would be more happy with just my love than my heart. um, I am curious, you mentioned epigenetics, and
Okay.
I know at that women's retreat, we all kind of got an introduction to gene keys. Is that similar to what you're talking about? Is it different? Can you talk about the epigenetics a little bit more?
Okay, so just in case anybody who might hear this doesn't really know what that means, I'll do a little quick basic. And it's basically that if instead of thinking that we inherit genes, if you could think of it as we inherit a genetic tendency, which means it could show up or it might not. And this is the connection between um, nurture versus nature. And so, like, for example, ADD was genetically a tendency in my family. My sister does not have it. I don't know that I had it until my teenage years, when I had some stress with a teenage pregnancy. And I think that is what clicked that light switch on in that gene. And so epigenetic things that we can do to change that and turn it back off would be to follow our passions. Like, for example, I feel like a spiritual explanation of ADD or ADHD is souls that have lived so many lives doing it the way somebody else told them to do it, like back when you just did whatever your father did and you trained under them, or you were put into an apprenticeship as a indentured servant and didn't get to follow their dreams. And I feel like the souls coming now are so determined to stick to their purpose that they have chosen this piece that says, I cannot focus unless it is what I am interested in. And when they do, they can focus like crazy. In fact, they have that thing where they don't want to transition out of it to do something else. Well, the reason is because they're supposed to be on their track, their path. So to come back to your question, you said epigenetics. One of the pieces for sure is beliefs. That is something that we, can put in our own brain or got put in our brain from our parents during our, formative years or from society. Doesn't mean we have to carry it around for the rest of our lives like a bunch of baggage. So the gene keys, you also talked about that, has with each of your gene keys, it has a shadow, a gift, and a city. And to me, the shadow is the beliefs and the society and the stuff we grew up with extra. So Michelangelo said he didn't carve the David, he took the extra rock, chipped it away, and found David in it. And so I think that the shadow frequency is the chipping off of the pieces that, you know, we glued on there with on and thought it was ours, and find the authentic self in us. And I think that as we go deeper, we get more close to our authentic self. So I see the gift tenant, the frequency of the gene keys being like, for me, I'm practicing being authentic in as many places as I can. So like the retreat and those women, I could be authentic all week or all weekend because it was a completely safe place. I was eating healthy food. I was having spiritual conversation left and right. I was just in my element. And I can do that at the spiritual group in Corvallis on Thursdays. But then I've got to practice taking it out to my family interactions, to my work. And so I'm in that place where sometimes I'm able to do that and sometimes I'm not. And so I think the city level, SIDDHI, is more when we've completely let go of all the extra and completely centered in ourselves. And I don't mean that to sound like a selfish way, completely centered in, like, everything we're saying is authentic to us instead of something your mom used to say kind of thing. Everything we, like, our eyes are seeing with love and no judgment, instead of somebody who told us that you need to brush your hair before you go out to be presentable, you know, those kinds of pieces.
That was really good, actually. Uh, what did you call it? Nutshell? Basics? Really good. Um, so for you, obviously you've been working on this, it sounds like, for a while, because you sound like you really are doing it. You're doing what you were just talking about, like you said. So tell me how I know for me, going out, not necessarily for a while, it was even amongst my family. I've cleared a lot of that, but like out in society when we meet people, you know, I still don't just come out and say, oh yeah, I'm an energy healer, or I'm like, I kind of reserve that part of me, and there's to some extent nothing wrong with that because it's a vulnerable, beautiful part of me, and I don't want to just put it out there for people to shit on. Oops. I'm not supposed to cuss in this because I said it didn't have
Well, but
content.
they should on it, is what I thought you said.
Oh, should I? Yeah, that should on it. Very good. How I should be, or what should be. So, yeah, talk a little bit about, you said you're a substitute teacher sometimes. How do you take this out to that arena?
Okay, so I'll start with a piece that seems like it would be okay to tell. One is when I'm out on the playground and watching the kids, I look for the joy and the smiles and the having fun, and I um, send blessings and love, and I enjoy the nature that I'm in, or go like touch a tree instead of just look at it. Um, and I noticed that the other playground teachers are looking for what the kids are doing wrong and blowing their whistle or saying, no, you can't go up the slide, kind of stuff. And I believe that when kids are having a good time, they're not going to have owies. And when they're sad or upset, and that's when those kinds of things happen. Or when they are, okay, so I could talk forever about this kind of stuff. So let's get narrowed down to answering your question. So for clearing, like when we have to walk down the hallway in a quiet line, to me, oh my gosh, that bugs me, because when I taught in Germany, there was a German teacher who said, you Americans are so fascist. You make these kids walk in a straight line, single file, no talking. That is so not like real life. She said, when you walk down the street with your friend, you walk next to each other and you are talking. So that's just,
Oh, that's a really good point.
yeah. And the reason is because other classes are trying to learn. And if you boil it down, this is going to get to like one of my pet peeves. Really, what's going on is that there are too many kids in every classroom. And so a teacher is really trying hard to get their attention and hold their attention. And when she's finally got everybody working the way they're supposed to, and there's a distraction that goes by the door because the kids in the hallway are loud, then she loses some kids, and she or he, shouldn't say she, is constantly trying to get those kids back on focus, back on track. And if this is okay, one of my dreams for like future, which could start now,
Could be
is
today.
every kid has their own teacher, and that teacher knows what interests the kid and focuses on how do we get you from here to achieve your dreams. So my brain integration stuff is removing obstacles and stress out of that equation. For the teachers, it would be, what do we need to add? What if I need to teach you some math, then let's do the math that goes with what would be useful to you. And so back to the line, I feel like that is cookie cutter. We all have to be quiet. We all have to walk in a straight line and do what we're supposed to do according to what society says. And that's not a bunch of individuals with individual dreams like that. So I do my little tricks to try and make it so that the class is quiet as we walk down the hall. But inside, I'm like making eye contact with kids and smiling and saying, I see you. I see that you're more than just a child in a line. And maybe clearing the beliefs that go with it. Like, I notice how many of the teachers will say things to the kids that directly go with what they think they're supposed to tell that kid because of how a school is supposed to be run or how it's supposed to go. When I'm like, I wonder if they really believe that or think that. And some of them totally do. But when I bring up that thing about the German teacher and the lines, a lot of people think, oh, that's a good point. But they're still going to walk with their kids in a quiet line because of how the system is set up. And so I just am like, I just want to start my own school and get away from all of this old way of doing it.
I so look forward to talking to you about that, because I have been working on a school since I was, I'm going to say 18. Like, I have notes, I
No.
have actually things planned out, and so much of what you just were talking about with seeing an individual with dreams, and how do we further that, and how do we teach appropriate things at appropriate time that allow each individual student as well as each individual teacher to express and give and get the best part of themselves. And I'm excited.
Let's talk.
So yeah, that's not for this podcast, but we are going to talk about that because I think we can further some things along.
I'm glad you have a lot of stuff written down, because I have these ideas that occur to me, and I can probably grab 5 of them off the top of my head, but I've got a plethora of information in my brain and memory that I have not written down, but would be reminded of once we start a conversation.
That's good. Yeah, I find that my brain's filing cabinet somewhere after my 3rd pregnancy got shuffled up a bit. So I get a little bit more frustrated with that, but I'm working at not being frustrated and just knowing that it's in there, and I just got to keep opening file drawers till I find the right one.
Okay, so you're talking literally your files.
No, I'm talking my mental files. They're all, the other day, an ambulance came up behind me with their sirens. And I was like, I got to find a place to pull over and get out of the way of the pirates. And everybody in the car went, the what? Because my brain had cross-referenced pirates and paramedics.
Ah.
But it was a joke then. After every time we see an ambulance, I was like, oh, the dang pirates.
That's great when you can make something just help you laugh and smile.
Yeah, I guess I feel fortunate. I am very easily amused. Almost everything in life, irreverent, ironic, right or wrong, I find something funny about it. And I don't know if that's just my spirit saying, this life is important. We have things to do, but it's all just a moment. And don't be so serious.
talk about immune boosting. Laughter is totally one of them.
That's true. I hadn't thought about that. So cool. So is there anything else you want to talk about or things you want to ask me or
You said filing cabinet. So, I don't know, to me, it feels like kind of a completely different topic versus what we're talking about. So, rein me in if you want at any point. But I was thinking about our inner child, and I learned at one of my workshops that I went to, Gary, should probably give credit where it's due. Gary Springfield does workshops with the inner child and says that it's the inner child's job to keep track of all the files of what emotions you have stored in what areas of your body.
that's
And
interesting.
so he takes you through exercises of either a physical place in your body that hurts that you want to give light to. And so you're supposed to imagine like golden love, unconditionally loving light going to that area. Or he said you can do a body scan, and when you come across an area in your body that won't accept the light, something's there. And so I have in my meditations sometimes seen how exhausted my inner child was by having so many files of so many emotions stored in so many areas. And so whenever I'm doing the ancestry thing or the clearing thing, sometimes I'll remember to ask my inner child, hey, any files you got on this? And basically what it is what brain circuits are there that we can include in this clearing to get rid of this stuff. And basically it's like purging your emotional filing cabinets. And the inner child is just, maybe that's part of why we feel better when we have a organized environment. I don't know, but just so much lighter and freer. And then the inner child gets to play more. So then some of my meditation times are imagining playing or dancing. My dad died last year. Here, this ties it together. My dad died last year, and so at Christmas time we were going to this Seattle Space Needle, and as a family, so I was with my nephews and my sister and brother-in-law and mom, and I invited my dad to come with us in my heart. And all the other ancestors were like, we want to come too, we want to come too. And I said, come on in. So they all came in with me in my heart, and so I know, back to the inner child, sometimes my inner child loves it doesn't have to be cheerleading, but in cheerleading there are those dance routines where the whole team is dancing and coming together and maybe getting in a line or doing different formations. Anyway, my inner child was directing all the ancestors to dance with these certain moves, and
How fun is that?
then I just imagine all these people doing a dance in perfect synchronicity, and it's just very cute.
Oh, very joyful. That's a great. I've not heard that. It's interesting. Inner child work seems to be coming up a lot on the planet, or at least in my in my circles on the planet. A lot of different people talking about it, but that's a perspective I hadn't heard of them being the keepers of all of those files. And it's yes, okay, let's clean out the file cabinets. Do we really need the let's we're releasing this pain where let's get rid of the files. We don't need to hold this anymore. And
Heavy,
yeah, how
heavy.
much more joyful our inner child would be because they have so much more room to play instead of just tend to the pains.
Yeah, and talking about just the lighter part, because dad died, mom and I have been downsizing. She's moved into a small apartment and I'm moving into a tiny house, so there was a lot of stuff to get gone through and rid of, and there were a lot of pieces that I didn't necessarily want to get rid of, but I have been doing the clearing and the emotional and psychological and spiritual pieces that go with all of that. So a symbol would be, I have all the photographs in the photo albums, and I don't have room for them in a tiny house. I have one digital frame that I've got to digitize everything to. And I've heard people saying that we've kind of gone a little crazy with the taking of pictures on our phones and not always like living the moment. And I watch for that. I don't really see that. I see people really enjoying the moment, and that's why they take a picture. But I guess mentally and emotionally, that could be a symbol of taking pictures of moments and putting them in my heart, and not necessarily having to go get the pictures developed and put them in an album.
Mm-hmm.
So I've lost weight, not doing anything specific or on purpose, but just the letting go has been cathartic because I've done it on multiple levels instead of just the physical level.
So your physical body's responding to it as well, just letting things go. And
Yeah, because that's what happens is if it's in your emotional field and you're not paying enough attention to it, then it keeps on trying to get your attention until it has to be manifested in a physical thing to get your attention.
yeah, I very much know what you're talking about there. And I do know that we store a lot in our muscles, in our fat, in our lymph system, in our hormones. There's all kinds of things, that translate where we store uh, emotions from the energetic fields through into our physical body. So that's very, very much true from my perspective.
And
Very
then
much.
the piece that I would just layer on top there is, it might be like frosting, but I think it's so essential, is gratitude. So you've heard of like Marie, is it Konto, that talks about having like touching what you love, and basically I am either giving gratitude and saying thank you to something that I'm letting go of or that I'm keeping, either way. um, and um, I've been trying to do, you were talking about how we store it in our lymph system. I asked a lady who, and I don't remember what kind of health field she was studying, but I remember asking her, if you had one piece of advice to give anybody not knowing what their specific concerns are, what would be like the most impactful thing they could do for their health? And she said, self massage. And I've been doing it just sort of like all the parts of my body with coconut oil and saying thank you, like to my heart that doesn't take a vacation, to my lungs that breathe over and over and over again without me having to tell them to do it. And I found a video that's lymphatic drainage massage specifically, and
Oh,
I haven't watched it yet, but he said it helps kids fall asleep. And I'm like, oh, if we could like start now with helping them let go of that crap instead of carrying it around, oh my gosh, they'll be so far ahead of the game.
that's amazing. Yes. Do you know the name of the video or the thing you found? I'm curious because one of my relatives is having a lot of challenges with lymphatic drainage right now. So
Well, I can find it. It's on Boomers Forever Young, I think is the name of the company, and I think the guy's name is Bob. But I can totally find it and forward it to you.
cool. I would really appreciate that. And when I do publish this, I am going to try anything we mention. I'm going to try to have links or videos, so like the gene keys and this. So I may be calling you back and be like, okay, we talked about this. I listened to the recording. I need that information. So, um, so hopefully that'll be all up on my website as well as the link to the podcast. So that's
Very
my
cool.
that's my vision.
It's
So
a good one.
help me stick to it.
You will.
Oh, awesome. Oh, Laura, you do so many things for yourself, and it just always amazes me just all the layers and the work you do for yourself. You're so inspiring.
Really nice to get a chance to say out loud these pieces that kind of go through my mind, um, and so often I'll have the thought of like, oh, I should write that down, or I should teach a class, or blah blah blah, and I realize that sometimes that takes me out of the present moment. And so I've been trying to practice just like let it go, let it, you know, be right here, right now. And if it's supposed to happen, it will come together. It's not your business how. You don't have to figure out the whole like business plan right now. Stay
Stay
right
here.
there.
Stay with it. That's a really good point. And actually that's, some of what I've am and have been. going through in the transition from 2019 to 2020 is there's so many things I'm inspired to create or do or play with, and then I'll get into them, and I get kind of in my own way with, well, how do I get that out to the world? How do I share that? How do I make that part of my business? And maybe some of the stuff really isn't appropriate for that. Maybe it's only for me, and I just need to do it. And then if it get, when it's done or I finish the process, if it's easy to translate it out, then the pathway will be there for that. And we get, our little, I don't know if it's just our analyzers, our ego, or human conditioning, or all of those, to be like, oh, I'm doing this, I got to share it out. And I do have a real desire to share things I discover, things I know with people when, if it's something that, especially if it's something that's helped me, I want people to have access to that. But sometimes, like you said, we get in the way of our own process, trying to figure out all these details that aren't really part of right now.
Or like finally sitting down to start a blog, and like the mechanics of doing it, like I spent an entire day and nobody can get to the link because it's saying that I'm not done yet. So I have to spend another day to go back, figure it out. And I'm like, oh. So one thing I've started to do is remember that there are multiple timelines or dimensions. And this weekend, one of the ladies at another co-creating retreat gave a way of walking on the earth in a way that we are like kissing the earth, is what she calls it, with our feet. And one of the affirmations she shared was something about, like, with the steps saying, I have arrived. I have successfully arrived right here. And so I've been trying to just say that to myself when I get off on one of those tangents of like, oh, I could do this class where we do like yoga with gratitude and blah, blah, blah. And so I tell myself, stop, come back to this body right here and give it gratitude and love. And imagine that you have on one of the timelines succeeded already, that is already in place, and you have arrived in right here. You have arrived right here successfully.
Wow, that is cool. I have to sit with that for a second. Process it again. So
I did it the first time I found out about it. It was sort of an accident. I went in an antique shop, and I just love looking around and, oh, I could upcycle this, I could make it into that. And I started having that monkey mind talk about money and storage space. And so then I was like, okay, inner child, I know you're the one that's excited. I know you're the one that has the creativity and wants to do this. So I'm going to imagine that you did buy that. You did get to make it into whatever you wanted it to be, and it turned out beautifully. And then I would get the emotional piece of us buying something without actually buying it. And so I went around the whole store and basically like emotionally created everything I wanted to make out of everything I saw. And I was high by the time I left. I felt
I can imagine. So excited. Ah, so again, walk me through. So it's, each step you've successfully arrived here,
Mhm.
and then when we have that inspiration of something we want to do, we're just imagining it through the process of it being completed and it's successful, and then kind of letting it be successful there and remembering that we're here. Is that, did I?
Yeah, I like the way you said it though, because it helped me remember an important piece. First of all, I just want to clarify that, like Abraham Hicks and some of the manifesting stuff, like Abraham Hicks says, there's a 30-day challenge where you only do what you want to do and only talk to who you want to talk to. And she said it's very hard for us, that we tend to do what we're supposed to do instead. But maybe this coronavirus thing is perfect. Or,
6 weeks is a long time.
she says 30 days will make it so that you will be relaxing enough that you will get some inspired ideas and that you're supposed to act on them right away. So like there's that part of me that wants to do it right, and here's that and wants to like get out of bed and go make that phone call or whatever. And I have done that at times. I have sent like an email or message to somebody that says, like, I had one idea. I was like, I want to do a spiritual video game. And so I reached out to all these people that I thought would be great on my team, my committee, about it. And nobody really.
But you planted a seed, so we'll see where it goes.
So part of me thinks, yes, you need to act sometimes. But in those times where Joe Dispenza talks about your body thinks of all these excuses to get you out of sitting down and meditating and staying present. Like, I gotta go to the bathroom, I gotta get a drink, blah, blah, blah. So in those kinds of times, if you are getting away from, like I was saying, putting coconut oil on my feet and saying thank you to my body through all those acupressure points, no, I need to finish that. I need to stay right here and honor my feet that take me everywhere I go. And so the piece that you said that I liked was imagining it done. And I think that's the piece I want to pull back in for myself, is instead of just, usually I just give it to the angels or, give it to the universe and say, if you want this to happen, help me remember that idea when I need it. And I've been working or playing with trust, like trusting that things are going to be there when I need them, ideas, etc. But this time, I like what you said about imagining it done, because that's so powerful. So that's what Joe Dispenza says to do, is to spend day after day after day imagining yourself having achieved whatever it is that you wanted to achieve, or healthy, or playing that piano piece for your recital perfectly. And that the brain studies have shown that when you imagine it, you're building the same circuit that you would build if you were actually doing it, except better. Because when you imagine it, you don't imagine making a mistake.
Right.
You imagine doing it the right way. And so we so often go back and remember the past of how that didn't work last time. And I mean, even the blog thing not working yet. I'm definitely not spending time there, and I've now got stress in that circuit that I don't want to have be there every single time I sit down to do a blog. I want it to be a joyful, easy experience. And so that's why I was like, well, maybe video blog is better. And so anyway, then my friend Shareen, who by the way is amazing, magical in all kinds of lovely ways, and has an amazing family that, oh my gosh, I just, like, everywhere I look in my tiny house, I'm like thinking of you guys and how you helped me with this and that. um and I had a reading with Shareen, and Shareen told me I'm a manifester. And so putting together these two pieces, I could imagine something being successful, or our society thriving after this coronavirus thing, and trust that the in between here and there is not my business. That's the how, and that is the part that the angels and the guides and ancestors can help us with. And they probably are right now when we don't even realize it. They're probably helping everybody else get healed and what they need to heal, or getting their video thing set up, like my friend Shareen, who's setting up this conversation with video.
Yeah, I was just thinking this, like, oh, I wish I'd figured out how to do this Facebook Live at the same time, because I just think people would love watching us as well as hearing us. But I'm excited that it's going to be a podcast for sure. And I know we're going to do more conversations, Lori. We just have so much to talk about that I think it's just so much fun and interesting. So I'm looking forward. I'm imagining all that already happening. Like, oh, there will be, and it's funny too, because a couple, well, like I said, since I made the vision board, and I just kept looking at talk every day amongst friends. Just it's like it just kept hitting me and hitting me. I was like, I don't even know what that means. I don't have to know what it means. I'm just gonna and then just kind of unfolded. And as I was driving one day, I was like, yeah, I have teenagers, and they all get on Discord servers to talk to each other while they're playing all kinds of different games. They watch streaming on Twitch TV, and my 18-year-old was telling me, Mom, Twitch now has this section that's just chat. And I'm like, what does that mean? He's like, well, like people walk around and they vlog where they're walking or they're different. And I just suddenly totally saw all this being both podcast and maybe live streaming someday. And again, I'm not going to get stuck on the how right now, but I can see the progression, and it's already there. It's already happening. And my heart gets excited. My body gets excited. I can hardly contain it. And there's I get in my own way a lot, and it's a pattern that I am breaking by just taking an action step. um, I have the gift of a very even-minded mind. It can see things from all kinds of perspectives.
Oh, wow.
But somewhere in my childhood, I was trained to doubt some of my ideas, and from a place I think that was meant to be loving and discernful. Did you think about these things? But
Homework, so
yeah, but anyway, I often will get to a certain point and go like, oh, that won't work because of that, and I just stop. And I'm starting to deprogram that, like thanking it for pointing out, oh yeah, that's a step that's a step I'll have to figure out how to take, but it doesn't mean stop.
right.
It just means work on what you can do right now. As our friend Victoria says, and she takes it from somebody else that I can't remember, but take what you have, start where you are, do what you can. That's all you got to do every day, right? Take what you have, start where you are, do what you can.
Well, I think that reaching out and doing it with a friend, I think that's part of the playing instead of working at it
Yeah,
piece. And the whole, like, I've heard people talking about social distancing, and then somebody said, no, it's not social distancing, it's physical distancing. Actually, socially, reach out and connect and touch, and um, you know, pick up the phone and chat with somebody you haven't talked to in a long time. And so, voila, here Shareen says, hey, you want to talk tomorrow? I'm like, what can we talk about? Spiritual stuff? Oh my gosh, I love to do that. Yes, yes, yes.
yes, we talk about whatever we want to talk about. That's so cool. So, yeah, I'm just looking to see if there's anything on my heart right now, on my mind. You've given me so many ideas to play with. I'm just really looking forward to spending time with my ancestors. And I do a lot of actually ancestral line DNA energetic clearing. Not as usually as a session where somebody says, "Oh, I want that," but a lot of times in the midst of a healing, there comes a point where that shows up, and I can't really describe how I see it in my head, but it's very specific. Here's an ancestral DNA pattern that this person, part of their soul purpose is to heal or to stop or to change, kind of turn off that switch or turn on a different switch. And we clear it all the way back through the ancestral line that way. And some of the stuff you talked about today is like, oh, and there's a visual practice that I can now talk with one of my clients, afterwards and be like, all right, hey, here's something you could do if you notice something that comes up or something that in your mind already that this came down the family line that I'm done with. My friend taught me this thing where you can give all that energy back to where it came from through the heart of and the flame of love and God, and clear it and imagine your ancestors healed from that and how they thrive. And again, goosebumps all over the place. I just am on fire with that. Like, oh, it's just like a whole nother moment. And
And tool.
tool. It's like I can, tell people what I've done, and it's so complex in the moment when I'm holding the space and doing it. There's, about all I can verbalize is, we're clearing some ancestral DNA. that's about all I can say. But after the healing's done, here's a tool. What a wonderful gift.
So I got a more specific picture from a reading I had with a friend named Susie, who's practicing being a medium. And she said she saw her ancestors digging in the ground for potatoes, kind of frantically, not finding them. And basically, it was the beliefs about money and scarcity type of thing was what was needing to be cleared. And she said, stop touching the ground and trying to find something. Just hold each other's hand. And so she saw a long line of ancestors all hold each other's hands, and then saw her parents and grandparents actually touching her shoulders. And so it was all like physically connected. And then I think she said something, and I might be not doing it exactly the way she said it, but I tried to do this with my ancestors, and I had a silver platter with the belief on it and imagined, light or clearing of it or whatever. And then I imagined having a gold platter when we were done with, okay, well, what if we're getting rid of that belief? We now have a void. What do we want to put in instead?
Right, exactly. Very important. What do you want to fill in with?
Right. So then that's where we go back to the place of the imagining all of them having been healed. In integrated healing, that's an important step that comes up twice in the healing protocol, is that you imagine what your life would be like if this was not an issue. And then so the first one we do where we're taking away the problem, and the second one we do where we're imagining the solution.
Very beautiful. Very beautiful. Yeah. Ah, so cool. So cool, so beautiful. Whew. Yeah. So I'm just really enjoying this. Just seems like a good pause. I'm going to ask, do you need to take a potty break or a drink break or anything?
I do.
Okay. So I'm going to pause the recording for a minute while we do that, and then we'll come back and we can talk some more. All right.
Sounds like.
That's very cool. So we are back from our little break, and Lori actually was just talking about energizing her water in her house around different things. And I don't know if I'm sure there's a fair number of people who know about it, but that is something that is a very easy thing to do before you drink water, or even when you can put it in a container and put it in a place with good energy or good intention. You can also just bless it with your hands, your own energetic intent before you drink it. There's a lot of things, but water holds energy vibration. Our body is what, some crazy percentage of water. I don't remember, 90 comes percent, but I could have that percent totally wrong. But we are water and energy and carbon, pretty much. So,
And yeah, I could talk for a long time on all the stuff you can do for your water, but yeah, you're right.
do you want to?
Sure. So one thing that I think people might already do is they have like a special mug or water bottle. And I would say keep your eyes open for the one that brings you the most joy. So I like copper. So I have a couple that are like one that's real copper and one that's just, well, I have two that are copper colored. So I think that's important. So my favorite thing to drink out of, though, is this really great big, looks like a wine glass, but it's a candle holder, so it's like huge on the top and has a really big long what do you call the stem of the glass, but it holds a lot of water in it. And then whatever I set the glass or water bottle on has to have good energy. So there's sacred geometry. You can find stickers; those are easy. You can put words and stickers on, especially if it's glass. Uh, so I have a great big jug of glass jug of water that has words on it, and the words face the water. So whatever words you want to put in there, you can draw them yourself, or you can find these little stick on, uh, like the kind of stickers that go on glass window. So it could be energy, it could be authenticity, whatever you're wanting to bring more of into your life. Um, Prayers. So you could do a very specific one, or a lot of times I'll find some inspirational quote or prayer. And so I have pictures of like Kuan Yin, and um, all of these pieces of paper are stacked up underneath. I put a doily over it, and then I had my water jug is on a stand, and so underneath the stand I have amethyst. You can put amethyst in your water. You can put pink quartz in your water. You can put crystal quartz in your water. Sugarlight is one that's good, that helps with dealing with EMT. Is that the right acronym for like energy stuff from our computers and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Thanks EMF, but yeah.
yeah. And then I do it homeopathically. So the jug has all this good stuff, and you can put anything in there. Sometimes I put peppermint oil. Sometimes I put lime oil or lime juice or whatever makes you get excited about it. And then I do a little dose of that in my glass. And I've also gone to like healing ceremonies where you take water and then you get all the yummy energy in that water. Then you take it home, and then you just put a little bit in your glass, and then you add other water to it. And homeopathically, that increases
The vibration.
yeah, or the like the potency.
Yeah.
Um, so then that jug of water doesn't need to be changed very often, because I'm just using a little bit. And once you start paying attention, you start hearing more about it or whatever. So I've heard of lots of things that you can put in your water that are good for electrolytes, or good for that, or good for this. And then, yeah, like you said, you can hold it next to your heart. Todd, in his healing sessions, has people um, kind of like put their vibration with it. Like um, I've also heard of putting some of your DNA with seeds in the ground when you grow your food. So your food has like a specific DNA connection to you, what your body needs. Um,
Oh, I haven't
and,
heard that. That's interesting.
and
Makes
then
sense.
I have glasses everywhere that are shiny and sparkly, and I just every time I drink, I refill it back up and put it back down, so that when I'm by my chair, I have a glass of water. When I'm by my bed, I have water. When I'm in the bathroom, I have water. So it's everywhere, and I'm drinking yummy, powerful stuff every time.
She makes her own holy water,
Yeah.
personalized holy water,
Yeah.
and you can too, and I can too, and uh, I haven't really thought. I like that thing, about making a jug with all the things you want, and then just taking, like a dropper full of that, and then adding it to your water and allowing it to really uh, amplify and spread out into everything you're doing without having to recreate. It's a totally different concept, but it reminds me of, like shortbread uh, starter, that the pioneers would make. And they make this batch of starter, and then they take a little bit of it to make their bread, but the starter is always, it's continual. It doesn't get used up. um,
Very cool. So
yeah.
you mean like bread, like sourdough type of bread?
Sourdough starter, not shortbread starter, my bad.
The cookies, and I'm like, shortbread cookies.
Yeah,
That's not bread.
no, sourdough starter.
I love that idea.
Yeah, it's like, but it seemed like the same kind of thing, where it's like you're always continually putting in the good and the things you want and the energy, and it's got that continuation. And for your own body, we intuitively know what's good for our body. Sometimes we get distracted by other programmings, other influences, reward systems, all those things can influence us, but intuitively, really deep down, we know when something's good for our body and when it's not. And so we can do that. I like to surround mine with crystals. I kind of am a crystal fan. So do a lot of selenite and quartz crystal, and I can't think of the name of it now. If I hold it, I might. It's not calcite.
Carnelian?
Might be carnelian. Yeah.
The orange courage one?
Well, there's orange carnelian, and then this green one. I think it's still carnelian. It's funny. Here's that filing cabinet. I was like, I can't quite access the word I want, even though I talk about it all the time. But
citrine?
Citrine. Yes, citrine. I like to have that one in my water.
Oh, and then cheers. You could say cheers to yourself, even if nobody's around. You can lift your glass to the universe. Say, thanks for being on my team.
Yes. And so you talked about that a little bit. Your team of people, of angels, of support, or whatever. And a couple weeks ago, some friends and I got together and we just did mind mapping. I don't know if you know what mind mapping is.
Well, actually, Victoria showed me the mind map that she made with you.
Ah, okay. So one of the big ones I did that day is, what team do I want or need? And allow it, gave myself permission to expand my thoughts or the roles, or just, not have any limits. Like if I could have any team around me. And I was shocked at how much of a team I wanted. Got like 27 things on here, and only one section of them are like the spirit guide. There's all kinds of things, but
like what? Tell me why.
Oh, so like really down in the, I'm going to call it the make it happen physical section. I want a person who loves to research and is a details manager and likes to find out all the stuff that needs to happen for website details, bookkeeping, event, just all those kind of, likes to research, manage the details, even maybe manage other portions of the team. I don't know. And
I know somebody who loves to research. Oh, sorry. My phone is reading on.
Say that again.
My text reads the text out loud.
Ah. I can barely hear you, so I don't know if it stole your mic or what.
Sorry. Long text, evidently.
That's all right.
With working on Xanadu, a lot of times I have glue on my hands or whatever, so I have the phone read it out loud to me, so I don't have to
that makes sense.
Mental note for next time: turn it on silent.
And then I enjoy cooking sometimes, but one of my personal areas that is challenging for me is food. And I just really want a personal chef, somebody who will make the food.
Yes.
Because if they make the food, I'll eat it, or I'll at least try it. I do have some food fears and some things, but it's so much easier to get into the space of, oh, I'll try that or I'll eat that, than if I have to figure out how to do it all. Like there's just a huge overwhelm in that. So I want that. I want, kind of, the producer, editor, publisher, coordinator, social media guru person who loves that stuff. All of this, the people who love this stuff and just it's their thing. I would love them to be on my team to do the things.
I love to edit.
So, And then I have, the collaborators, and they can flow in and out of my life, people who like to have conversations, playtime, go to retreats, work on a book, do a workshop together, just get together and brainstorm. Um, you know, the
Sounds
vitality enthusiast.
delicious.
Hmm?
That sounds delicious.
Yeah. My vitality enthusiast teams, people who want to exercise with me, mentors for training, stretching, dancing. Let's just play and do and be vital. Um, retreat part. I want to host retreats, as you know. As you know, we've talked about it a little bit. I want to host retreats, and I don't want to do it by myself. I don't want to be like, this is my retreat and I'm doing it. It's like, yeah, I'm hosting this retreat and I've got co-hosts, and they like to do these things, and we're going to go to this place, and they can be all, just based in health, prosperity, peace, joy, growth, playtime. I get a little
Yeah.
excited. And then I have my whole teams of, guides. The spirit guides, like you said, that's like, help me with the inspiration, help me find the pathway, help me, it's like, here's my thing, you go figure out the how.
Yeah.
um, and also, then uh, I know a lady who works with a spiritual board, and she's got like little place cards with the names of all the, like, she sat down and meditated and picked out, and who's spiritually on her team, and she's got, like the goddess Oya, and uh just all these different, I can't remember them all, so but she's got like 12 of them, and so she has all those placeholder cards, or and symbols for each of them, and she puts them around a little candle, and so when she's getting ready to do a new project, or if she's stuck on something, she consults that board. It's like, just talks to them, here's the thing, please help me out, and all that stuff. And and
Very
then there's,
cool.
like my friends that also do healings. I have a couple of friends who are astrologers, and you know I don't do astrology so much as the forecasting what's coming up, but that help me understand cycles that are going on in my chart, or or challenges. Like, I have a pretty dynamic challenge that sits. It's a, they call it a yod. So there are three players, kind of two that point on a third, and it conjuncts my node that has to do with my karmic lessons for this life, the things I want to achieve. And so one of these members, I think, is Leo, is all about creativity, passion, family loyalty. Then there's Gemini, communication, all this. And these two play and get along together, and they focus right in on Capricorn that says, how are we going to manifest this? How are we going to get this done? And these two are like, I don't care. Let's just talk about it. I got some ideas. And he's like, no, 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 no. How are we going to get this done? I don't care. And it's kind of like they get in that, you see sometimes in classrooms, or in trying to, the two that get along together and then kind of shun the third one. And so that's kind of at play in my chart, and just things like that help me understand myself a little bit better.
Yeah. Can you
And
spell yod for me?
YOD.
Y-O-D.
Yeah.
New word I love learning.
I do too. And then the gene keys, just having time to delve into it. There's so much there, and my brain sometimes gets overwhelmed. It's like, okay, we're just gonna take a dropper full of that right now. We're gonna put it away.
Yeah.
And we're gonna do some other things.
That's exactly what we're supposed to do with gene keys, is contemplate.
Yeah, yeah. They're not a doing; they're a contemplation. Yeah,
Yeah.
an
Sometimes
allowing and a rising, and yeah.
one
So
sentence can take you very far.
very, very far, and around circles and in deeper. But yeah, so those are. So anyway, I love mind mapping, and coming up with things, and just letting that part of, at least for me, letting go of all of the constraints, or the shoulds and things that I didn't even realize were kind of built into how I process things, until I go into a place where I just let things flow out, and then I connect the dots later. Kind of like the vision board I made. Like, I cut out all these things, don't really know how they go together. Just start picking one up and gluing it down, and pretty soon it's told me a whole story that I wasn't expecting. So,
So help me imagine how you manage to do this. Like, I think a lot of people want to do stuff and they always convince themselves that they don't have enough time because they have work or kids, and you have 4 kids, right?
I do. I have 4 boys, and
So
right now
how do
I have a
you,
little bit more luxury because they're teenagers, but they still, they still want to need. I'm blessed. They still want my time. They still need my time. Um,
and you
so
don't have the personal chef yet, so you've been like
no,
cooking for them and they eat a lot
actually,
too.
they may not love me for this, but I make this all take turns cooking. So uh,
Oh, I think I remember you talking about that. I really like that.
yeah, so I have one of the boys right now does the meal planning and the grocery shopping. And then everybody has a dinner night that they have to cook and clean up the kitchen afterwards so that we're not any of us overwhelmed. Although, there are still challenges. We get kind of in a rut of this person really only likes to make this. This person really only likes to make that. So then you end up with the same 5 things. And so,
Okay.
so we're kind of resetting that a little bit. I'm going to take kind of the meal planning portion back. I'm still going to allow them to go do the grocery shopping because it's kind of like I pay them as part of their ways to make money before they're old enough to get a job. Um, let them do all that. Plus, they're way better at sticking to a budget than I am. Because I'll go in and be like, oh, I forgot about that. I forgot about it. They go in with the list, they get that, they're done. So, so that's cool.
Well, because they're buying for a specific meal instead of a mom that's buying for her family to have food for.
Right, and there is some challenges in that because sometimes the if I don't think about it before I send them into the store, if we've just got the ingredients for these specific meals, sometimes we don't have pantry essential.
Right.
Oh, don't have that. We gotta go back to the store. Um, but in general it works pretty well. And yeah, so but we all have agreed we would just really like a personal chef. None of them really. We all enjoy cooking to a certain extent, but just that whole don't know what new to make, don't want to, whatever. So, and I'm allowing there could be more than one solution to that. Um, but that's just really kind of like, wow. I am so excited for that day, which could be tomorrow, where I have a person who just comes in and cooks everything and we eat it and we love it. Um,
So when
anyway,
you do your mind mapping, do
mhm.
you have a certain time of the day that is just for you, or do you follow your intuition and do it when the idea
um,
occurs to you? Or
Usually with the things that I do for myself, the mind mapping or reading cards or things, it varies time wise during the day. Although most of the time I like to do it. Like I wake up somewhere between 6:30 and 7:30, and if most of the days my husband takes the kids to school, and of course right now in this hiatus don't have to worry about that, but somewhere between there and 9 o'clock, I do a variety of things. So that's kind of my optimal time of me time. And then a lot of times if I'm not tired, uh, 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. is also where I kind of get in my flow, but that's less often as in the morning. But it can vary from day to day depending on if I've got a day where I've got a lot of clients or a lot of things going on, or a day where I don't. Um, so there is some intuitive following to that. And I will say most of the time, what I do on any given day is not like, oh, today I'm going to mind map and tomorrow I'm going to do this. It's in that moment. It's like, all right, what do I want to do right now? Like you said, what do I really want to do right now? Ooh, I want to sit in mind map, or ooh, I just want to play with cards and see what comes up, or I just want to draw, just want color, those kind of things. That's kind of
that's
my give
so
to
great that
myself.
you make time for yourself like that.
It took me a long time, and I remember, gosh, it was probably 2002. And at that time, I had a 8-year-old and a 2-year-old. I don't think I was yet pregnant with my, no, I wasn't. So I just had the 2 kids and a full-time job, and I've always been drawn to tarot cards and things like that. But I got this deck of cards. Oh, yep, they're here. That didn't sound too loud when I dropped my headset on the floor.
Right.
Anyway, this Ask Your Guides deck of
Okay.
cards by Sonia Choquette, and I pulled one, and it said something to the effect of, I probably can't find it if I'm trying now, but basically it was like, do you even know your own rhythms? Do you even know, you know, do you know your own rhythms? Do you know when to move, when to rest, and at that time, of course, you have a 2-year-old and you got an 8-year-old and you got jobs, and kind of like what we were talking about earlier, where, you know, so much of our lives are influenced by the external demands. We ground into those external demands instead of into our own rhythms, our own things. And I would like to say I got it right away, but it was literally a 12-year process for me of one, figuring out how to find those rhythms, and then how to honor them in the framework of, you know, because those external things, you know, they don't go away necessarily. You still have to, you know, earn your money, you still have to take care of your kids, but how to craft it to where I could do all those things. I could honor myself and honor my commitments. You know, and eventually it led to this space of me having my own business, where really I get to choose every day, at least 90%, what I do in every moment of that day. So, you know, I, this whole perimenopause, you know, the period premenopause, when things are all chaotic, my body needs way different things than it did when I was in my 30s.
Oh, okay.
You know, there are days where I need way more rest. I need to just be quiet and silly. And there are days where I need to make sure that I'm really stretching and moving, because my muscles get tight and they get you know, things that didn't used to happen. And there are days where I can eat a little bit a couple times a day, and most days I'm not even really hungry. And then there are days where I'm like, okay, I know I just ate 2 hours ago. I am freaking starving. And not just like, oh, well, this kind of craving of food, but like, I'm starving here. Uh, you know, so having the flexibility to kind of roll with those things is really a gift that I'm actually quite proud that I've been able to figure out for myself.
Well, and I'm just really proud of you for sticking with it for 12 years. Like if somebody who is caught up in the regular world is having some consciousness pop in about this coronavirus, and hey, maybe I could take some time for myself, and they want to start, like, if you told yourself 12 years ago it's going to take you 12 years to get this down, you might have like given up.
I would have been like, well, I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah, but,
Too hard.
and so I guess to tie into what we were talking about before, if somebody was like, I don't know where to start, I don't, you know, I can't do this, if they could just spend even 5 minutes and maybe like increase it a minute every day, imagining themselves in a life where you were able to respect your own rhythms, then that brain circuitry would start. Sorry.
Oops. I think we lost you this time. We keep dropping the headsets.
I was trying to let an insect out because
Ah,
my stuff that's been stored outside has bugs sometimes that come in, and I knocked over some stuff.
ah.
But anyway, if we are imagining ourselves being successful with you can imagine yourself meditating successfully,
Yes.
which is going to help that happen.
Absolutely. And even, for me, it was just that curiosity, just holding on to that curiosity. What am I doing right now that, because especially when I first read that card, it was like, I can remember literally thinking, I have no idea what they're talking about. What do they mean rhythms? What do they mean, what does that mean? And I can remember just being so curious about it. And then, periodically things would pop up and my brain would make a connection. And, and I'm sure that that's somewhat in part to help with from my guides and my intuition and my higher self. Like, oh,
You were
that
paying attention?
yeah, pay attention to that. That connects there. See that? There's that rhythm, but really noticing, I know everybody says you need 8 hours of sleep or whatever, but most of the time I'm really good on 5.5 hours of sleep. That's just like sweet for my body.
Well, I'm probably at least one ingredient in that recipe right there is that you do self-care, which is sometimes the only self-care we offer ourselves is eating and sleeping.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And even cooking with intent, not cooking distracted, but like I put on happy music. I focus on how I want to feel after I eat. So when I'm cooking, I'm just cooking with intent, like that. Even if it's just a 20-minute quick dish, which most of the time that's what I cook, um, is it's still that. How do I want to feel when I eat it? How do I want to feel? How do I want my family to feel when they eat it? That infusing it with love, infusing it with just all that intention. I think it was one little thing that, again, early on is like, well, I didn't have to make time for something new. I just had to change my
Right.
thought process about what I was doing and not cooking out of resentment or, oh my gosh, I only have that,
Right.
or those things. It really, those kinds of things were self-care shifts that didn't require me to carve out a new time. um, and
Yeah, and I like the part you said about the music, and I think a lot of us actually have our headphones in and listen to the music kind of thing. But how about um adding this? I've decided anytime we are waiting, if we would just dance, it would totally change the energy of waiting. So,
yes.
so if you've got something in the microwave, stand in front of the microwave and dance to the music that you were listening to while you're waiting.
Well, exactly. And actually, that's one way that I just recently, is like, I need to do more stretching. I need to do more things. Like, okay, well, I have to pee. So I'm going to get up. I'm going to do lunge walks to the bathroom.
Oh
Go pee. I'm going to get out and do hula hooping things. And, it's like just a couple of minutes of intentional stretching, you know, as I'm really just taking a break. Then I don't know, for me, it's less overwhelming than I got to find another 5 minutes. I got to figure out how to parsec to these seconds. Like,
yeah,
no, I
because
just gotta.
when I do that, I end up taking 10 minutes to get to my chair to put my shoes on. It's like, how many distractions can I do, or how long is it going to take for me to set up this thing that I'm supposed to do that's supposed to be either good for myself or something I'm supposed to do, like even just homework or somebody working from home,
Yeah,
might take themselves 10 minutes to get there. And then, yeah, just like, oh, I love that. Add lunges on the way.
yeah. So it's just those are little things, and I don't know. Maybe they sound silly, but they've really helped me. It's like, oh, because I can feel like, hey, I did those. I did those things that I wanted for myself every day. Meditating was a hard one for me. That took me a long time to uh, learn how to do. And honestly, silent meditation still doesn't work real well for
Yeah,
me.
me neither.
I do best if I put on. I have a playlist of songs, and I do specific kind of energetic techniques to the music, and it just, you know and so I do that for about 20 minutes, and I clean my energy field with that. And then I can do kind of, I guess it's more mindfulness, where I create a symbol, or I let a symbol appear in my mind's eye, and then I ask it what it's wanting to show me. And
Oh
I
wow.
ask it, those kinds of things, and being kind of that way, that's my most effective meditation. I also do meditative walks. Like, I'm just going to walk out in nature, and I'm going to notice, it's really about noticing. What do I see? How many colors of green are really right there? Oh my gosh, I think there's 35 colors of green. Who
Mm-hmm.
knew? um, or the way the petals fall off of off of the flower tree in the wind, and what birds are around. What do I hear? What do I smell? What do I, and just being present. I think all of that really, for me, that was the gateway into being able to still my mind, and really hear myself, connect to my inner voice. And I grew up in a Christian household, so prayer also, shifting prayer from the space of, here's what I want you to do for me, God. Here's people I want you to help. Here's the things here's my to-do list for you, God.
Okay.
Um, which was right or wrong, kind of the focus of how I was taught to pray. Um, uh, to, wow, look at this day. Thank you for this. I'm so appreciative that I was shown this, or I got to notice that. And even to, that kind of, what's my giving back today going to look like? What's my giving back today going to, so a lot of times I start my day with that. um, yeah, hey, look, I woke up alive. Yes, I can breathe, I can move. Oh, there's a little bit of soreness there, but you know what? I can move still and kind of let it release, and I can talk to it, and I can love myself more there. And then, oh yeah, here's today. What do I want to experience today? And I usually keep it real general, like just a lot of laughter, a lot of joy. I want to connect with people, those kinds of things. And yeah, and then what can I give today? And just kind of let those things arise. But for me, it can only arise when my brain is quiet. If my brain is chattering and going on and on and on and on, then I can't hear that. So I have a very big volume knob on the, I think you called it the monkey brain. I call it my analyzer, the thing that's trying to hold all the to-do lists and all that. And I just go, shh, and I turn it all the way down to 0.
I like that.
And then I turn up my inner voice. And it's funny because this is shh, and this one is ah.
I like
And
that.
then,
I
yeah.
met a healer lady who gave us the image of a switchboard, kind of, or the other one I've heard of is like a sound mixer for recording
Mm-hmm.
in a recording studio, and all those buttons and knobs, and imagining um, pulling the cord out of a belief, or turning a knob down. But so the example she gave us was, when you're driving down the road, if you've got plugged into I could get a ticket, and you're much more likely to get a ticket versus pulling that one out and plugging in, divine timing, everything's working out, this music is really good.
Yes.
Okay.
Easy flow. Everything in easy flow. That's
and
that's
and I can't make my mind quiet down. um Breathing is kind of the closest, if I'm doing a specific breathing exercise. But Matt Kahn says, if there's something about you that you've tried to change and you just can't change it, make it a talent.
yes. Embrace it.
So
Love it.
I just, instead of trying to be quiet, I mean, I can be quiet and like listen for uh, an answer to a question, but it's not the blank nothingness. But I do a lot of imagining, so I can fill my imagination with those visions of the ancestors or whatever. is what I do instead.
Yes, and from my perspective, you are turning down your mind and you're turning up your that awe point when you're doing the um, imagining and the things like that, because you're turning off. When I say turn off our minds, I'm talking about the hamster wheel of chatter, all those
Right.
programs that just tend to run in the background, or like I said, to-do lists, or uh, for fortunately, I learned how to break most of these hamster wheels and replace them with something else, even before I knew anything. I remember being in 10th grade, and my dad listened to a little bit Deepak Chopra on a cassette player on the way to school one day. and and Deepak was talking about stopping the programs. So, you know, if you tell yourself that you can't do something, or you're not pretty enough, or you can't, whatever the thing was, just hitting the stop, eject, new tape. and I started using that,
Wow.
and mostly, I wasn't so good at hearing my own at that point, but I could see it in my friends when they would start saying something. And you mentioned it earlier, like with teachers, like, wow, is that something they really believe, or just something that they've been told they should say?
Right.
And it's like, wait, stop that, break it, eject, new tape. What do you really want to say here? What do you really want to tell yourself? And my friends and I started doing that with each other in 10th grade, and what an amazing. Yeah, I look back now, and some of the things that I didn't even know was my higher self, or whatever, helping me lead and grow and evolve. I'm like, wow, what an amazing gift that was. 10 minutes on the way to school, I heard something that just literally changed my life right there.
Did you say your friends would help you catch?
Yeah, like I said, I wasn't good at catching myself saying them early on, and they weren't good at that either. But like, if we heard each other saying things like, I'm not good enough for that, or anything like that, that just kind of struck you, is that really what you believe? We'd be like, stop, eject, new tape.
That's so awesome. I think that is part of why the idea of talking with your friend or having a team sounds so appealing, because I think some of us naturally, in our very first steps, start judging others for doing such and such. Like, I can catch somebody else's brain circuits are stressed right now way faster than my own. And so to like go from the stage of judging them for that to noticing it for ourselves in between, if you do have friends that you can be honest with and say, hey, this is one of what I'm working on, could you help me out with it? And having a friend that's open enough for you to be able to say something, like somebody will say, oh, I can't do such and such, and I usually will add at the end of their sentence, yet, just to help like retrain. um,
Right.
but if you've got buddies on that retraining, that's going to help the circuit build so much faster.
Yeah, no, it truly was a gift moment. And much like, and we were talking about just learning how to find your own rhythms, is like, I was trained to get up early and go to bed early, because that's what worked with lifestyle and different things. And and it took me a long time to notice that I like to be quiet in the morning, and just kind of, that's why I choose that time for myself, because a lot of times I don't even get out of bed unless my bladder is very insistent upon it. um, like, during that time I just stay there, and then once I'm up, it's like a different part of my brain kicks over. And so
Right.
then doing different things, and kind of the tidying, the cooking, the whatever, it's almost a different kind of zone out meditation, where I can just kind of be in the moment doing little things and not have to have thoughts or stuff. And then I go, and I like to have my client appointments or like this kind, where I'm actually interacting with people and doing, I like to do that in the middle of the day, like 11 a.m. to about 2 p.m. From 2 to about 4, I'm tired. It's like that's kind of a time where I just want to sit, relax, veg out, have a snack, give my body rest moment. And then 4 to 7, again, I like to interact, I like to do. 8 to 10, I like to be quiet, but kind of not quite in the same way as in the morning. And then after 10 is more like the same kind of, meditate, think about things, do stuff. But yeah, piecing, learning how to say no to programs I was given to and really notice, how does my body feel right now? And especially, we're trained as adults. It doesn't matter how you feel. You better get your butt into work because people are relying on you, da 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 da. And again, here with this coronavirus, we're saying, if you even think that sniffle is more than allergies, stay home, stay away from me. Heal yourself up first before we talk in person. There's a whole lot of shift, and I do think we would be healthier overall as a society if we were allowed to honor, hey, you know what I need right now? I need a nap. Hey, you know what I need right now? But then we also have to be self-disciplined enough to be like, hey, this is my creative time of the day. If I don't tell myself to go do something, I'm going to miss it. Even though I do have a lazy part of my brain that's like, meh, we'll do that tomorrow. Meh. And I have to be self-disciplined to be like, no, really, I know now this is my creative time of day. So if I want to get stuff done, this is the most efficient time for me to write, because that's just where my body rhythm is. But yeah, it takes time and willingness and curiosity. I think that was the big thing, is like curiosity. How am I feeling? Do I know how I'm feeling? That was a big one. Do I know how I'm feeling? How's my body feel? Oh, I have a body. Ooh, my body's kind of tired. Who knew that was true?
Well, and those kinds of questions, it's easy to imagine being able to do that if our environment is quiet. And I just want to, for anybody who's listening who thinks my life is hecka busy, there's no freaking way, I've got kids, blah blah blah, I want to use that as an opportunity. And if you could figure out like a bottom line tool that works for you. So um, you were talking about creativity time. I know that even if I don't have all the energy or all the supplies to work on a project for Xanadu, I have a backpack of coloring books and markers. Like that is a go-to that I could do during a creative time that then, might not get finished on that page, but it might launch into something. Or a de-stress tool.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in a stressful situation with a family life where there was a lot of chronic illness, and everybody was kind and everybody was trying their best, but like I could so easily notice things that would make me feel stressed. And so I would be like, what am I going to do about this? And what I'm basically trying to get to is opportunities like that could be seen as like a spiritual intensive or something. That I was in a stressful situation often enough that I would make myself go walk down the street and back, maybe not go for a long walk, but use that breathing technique or that imagination trick that I came up with. And I would come back home and I would be stressed again and I would have to go back down the street. I mean, it was like constant. But you know what? That was practice, and that was building a circuit. And if I had had an easy life where I wasn't stressed and I wasn't having to go use that tool over and over and over again, then it might not have become an automatic circuit for me in the same way. And so if we could just be grateful for our life circumstances, whatever they are, that they are perfect and they are offering us the exact right data for us to be able to make our exact next step, and just give ourselves more credit along the way. Like hey, I did lunges on the way to the toilet. Like, I realized the other day when I was like, I didn't accomplish much. And then I kind of like did a mental list. Well, I did this and this. Oh, I did this. Oh, I did. But just like
Absolutely.
give yourself credit for what you did right or what you attempted, or Matt Kahn says between now and when everything turns out all right, because it will, you can choose to worry, you can choose to play, you know, you can choose your in between. It's gonna turn out okay either way. And I think that when we're caught up in the how piece and we look back and think, oh, I didn't get to my end goal yet, so I haven't done enough how yet. Well, if you just look at the pieces that you did do and give yourself, like, or even the people around you, some compassion to say thank you for providing me with the perfect opportunity to do this one thing, even if it's just one thing that either made you smile or made somebody else smile, or, you know, even if you just went out and put your feet on the grass for 20 seconds, just like, I did that today.
Yeah, and actually it's funny because I don't know about you, but like my husband and I both have times where, you know, our parents wanted us to be humble and they wanted us to be always improving and doing these things. So, you know, like we were kind of taught to review our day of well, what didn't happen? What can I do better next time? You know,
Mm,
kind of, and that's fine, but it really kind of didn't allow for that celebrating of all the moments that went right. You know, it kind of narrowed it down into the focus of this thing that went wrong. It was a terrible day because I had this 5 minutes that went wrong, or
yeah,
this, you know,
yeah,
as if for it to be a good day, the entirety of it had to be perfect, right?
oh yeah,
And so I've really started this year, and it was, you know, at the beginning of the year, I kind of meditated and found my word or words for the year. And the big one for me this year was celebrate. And then it became celebrate anyway.
yeah, I
Celebrate
love that.
anyway. Um, and so at dinner conversations on our family dinner nights, you know, we have to go around and we have to say, you know, what are 3 things you're celebrating about yourself today? And even when we first started, most of my kids and my husband, I would notice they would celebrate an event or a moment in the day. I'm like, well, that's a fantastic, that was a fantastic moment. You're right. But what do you want to celebrate about you today? How were you today that you want to celebrate? Oh man, it gets silent. It gets,
Yeah,
but it's a hard question. Yeah, but they're starting to notice and starting to think about it. Like, oh yeah, you know, people were talking this way, nah, 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 and I was able to tune them out. I'm going to celebrate that today. You know, I was able to
yeah.
get my space. I was able to uh, you know, make a joke that the teacher appreciated. You know, instead of getting yelled at, she appreciated it, or you know, whatever their things were in you know. And I do think it was actually hardest for my husband, and he would be like, just
Wow.
things like, I don't know, you don't know. I'm like, well, did you brush your teeth today? And he's like, yes. I'm like, well, let's celebrate that. You have better dental hygiene than half the people on the planet.
That's so
Good
true.
job. You know, and he would laugh and be like, whatever. But, you know, I do think it's just shifting our brain sometimes just to, hey, I got up out of bed, took care of my body hygiene, fed myself, and got to this appointment or this job or this thing on time, and I did the things I was supposed to do during then. And I mean, that's a lot of things,
Yeah, it is.
and we just kind of write it off as meh, 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 nothing extraordinary. It's like, I think that's worth celebrating anyway.
It totally is. It totally is, especially for people like with chronic illness and depression and stuff. You know,
Oh, especially them, but even just I just think as humanity we don't, and not to get egocentric, but just to, you know, like you said, these feet that carried me around took 1,000 steps, they were 10, gosh, when we were on that kick of did we get 10,000 steps in?
Okay.
Like, oh my gosh, did we celebrate our feet? Did we
Yeah.
rub them with oil? Did we wash them? Did we love them?
Yeah.
Did we celebrate our feet's ability to hold us up?
Yep.
I bet most of us didn't even think about it. All we said was, ah, damn, I only got 6,000 steps in today.
Yeah.
Instead of celebrating, hey, feet, you took 6,000 steps today.
So true.
So, those are all of those little things, and I certainly, like you, I'm continually delving into more. What more can I learn? How else can I heal myself? How else can I share? And not from a space of it isn't enough, but just that there is so much more we can deepen into that I get excited about it. It's like, and I have felt that there are times, there have been times it's like, can I rest for 5 minutes? Do I have to keep growing or healing? Can I just rest? And that was I came to realize again from my childhood, just that achievement mentality of you did this, you checked it off the list. What's next? Did we stop to enjoy, and actually I just looked up and there's words on my board there. Leave room to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Did you enjoy what you created, or did you just check it off and move to the next thing? Are
Yeah.
we are we enjoying, are we celebrating and enjoying what we're doing? Um,
And that goes back to the feet, and with every step saying I achieved getting here, because we always think that the end destination is more important, and like you said, even if we get to it, then we have a new goal. But the each in between step could be celebrated or recognized, and the feeling like I did achieve that can help launch the next step in a completely different way than the vibration of I didn't do enough.
right. And something you just said there also triggered, it only takes one step to change direction.
Mm.
It only takes one step to pivot to a new thought, a new way. It only takes one step. So every step, I think, is so important. And I think it was in, I don't remember what book it was in. I was reading a book, and part of it, um, Journey of Souls, I believe was the book by Newton. But he, much in the same way that Brian Weiss, would go through hypnotherapy to people with past lives or whatever, this man in his book did too. But he was more interested in what happened between lives. Where does your soul go? What does it do? How do you process? And one of the things that struck me is in many of the stories, they would do their life review, and it wasn't about what they achieved. It was about those little steps. Oh, that man in the grocery
Mm.
store that did it, and did, it's like they would focus on these minute details in their life review about how did you react? How did you choose? How did you, it was like, oh, wow. And at first when I read that, I felt an immense amount of pressure. I was like, oh my gosh, every second. They're going to review every second of my life. I gotta pay attention. But pretty soon, pretty soon is relative. Eventually, I let go of that pressure and just, realized that it's not the circumstances of our lives. They are the circumstances of our lives are the catalysts for what do we choose in a moment. And that's really what our soul is after, is what do we choose in a moment? How do we interact? How do we connect? What did we do? What did we learn? What did we experience? It's this big fullness thing that certainly purpose, achievements, all those things play into, but from the soul's highest perspective is what did I experience that moment?
Wow.
And that's the deliciousness. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Yeah. So, and I can, like any other human, I can go up and down in my emotions, my day. Like, ooh, in that moment I experienced that, and I did not enjoy it. Just for the record, that I did not enjoy. That goes over there, not enjoyed. But I can celebrate experiencing it, because really, I have a fair number of clients that come in with, tragedy, heartache, these things. Like, well, why do these things happen? Why would my soul choose that? And our highest soul, has a whole different perspective on life than when we're experiencing it. They want the experience, but it's much like when you walk through a room and you stub your toe on the couch, and later you remember that hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't remember it in the same way as if you stub your toe again and you're like, oh yeah, I remember that. This really hurts. Well, in between lives, your soul's more like, oh yeah, kind of remember that hurt, but I want this lesson, I want this thing, I want this experience. It kind of, we're like mothers who give birth multiple times. Like, why would we go through that? Well, we just kind of, yeah, it's a moment, that moment of pain or effort or whatever. We have kind of a memory of it, but it's not the same visceral memory as when you re-experience it again. So, yeah, the soul wants experiences. It wants the deliciousness, and even the deliciousness of, I did not enjoy that.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how we felt about it. It was the experiencing of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is all delicious to our soul, and that's
Yes. I
to
read that recently.
to to kind of the moralistic compartment in my brain, the ethical whatever, is like, oh, that ain't right. We should only want to do good and do it, but
Well,
again,
that goes back to the celebrating everything thing. And
celebrate everything,
you bet.
celebrate anyway.
Yep,
Yeah.
totally. Well,
I
Shareen, my battery's getting low.
Low. Yeah, we are actually, we have talked quite a bit. So I so appreciate you, Miss Lori, for coming on, talking amongst friends. We covered which is exactly what I want for this podcast. Authentic, just really organic. We went all over the place, just like you do when you talk with friends, because that's really what I
Right.
want. And I do hope that it's a blessing to everyone who listened, that you laughed, that you got ahas, that you thought we were crazy, silly, whatever, that you had your experience that you got today. So thank you, Lori, and I hope everybody will enjoy the episode and continue to tune into Amongst Friends. I think my next episode is with our mutual friend, Victoria, so
Good.
that will be fun.
Yes,
Right.
it will be. Guaranteed.
Yeah. Talk to you later, Lori. Thanks for draining your phone battery.
Oh, it was my honor and my phone's honor too. And my phone enjoyed it. So did I.
Me too. It was a pleasure. All right. We'll talk again later. Ciao,
Sweet
ciao.
dreams.
Yeah. Loves you.